There's something you might want to do before playing Shattered Space. Doing this will make your playthrough of the upcoming Starfield DLC a lot more interesting and unlock something new in the story. Before we begin, click that subscribe button and subscribe to the channel for more regular Starfield videos. I just did a deep dive on the Shattered Space story, which you could find in the pinned comment below this video. So the thing I recommend doing in Starfield before you play Shattered Space is to do the companion quest for Andreja. And the reason for that is Andreja is the only one of your companions who is a member of House Va'ruun. Shattered Space takes place on the Va'ruun homeworld, and Andreja is almost certainly going to have some unique dialogue options when she gets there. To trigger Andreja's companion quest, you need to reach a certain level of affinity with her. In other words, she has to like you. To do that, make sure to take her out on missions and avoid doing anything evil like stealing stuff or attacking innocent people. If you're playing on PC, you could just Google the commands to instantly raise her affinity level and kick off the companion quest. That quest is called Divided Loyalties, and it gives you possibly the most info about House Va'ruun out of any mission in the game. It's all about Andreja reconnecting with old friends who she abandoned when they were all attacked by Va'ruun zealots 10 years ago. Va'ruun zealots are a fanatical fringe group of Va'ruun who will attack anyone, so they are distinct from regular members of House Va'ruun. The first step is to head to a bar on Aquila and find her friend Aaron Bascombe. Turns out he's not there, but the bartender knows where he is. That bartender is called Aggie, and she is very Aggie. She says Aaron is severely traumatized by the event, and he's been coming to the bar and drinking every night. But weirdly, he hasn't been seen in a while. He's hiding out on a planet called Hyla 2. When you proceed to Aaron's camp on Hyla 2, it turns out he's passed away a few months ago. Va'ruun zealots are now raiding his camp, who you have to take out. Searching his notes leads you to a person called Jada. Jada has been hunting Va'ruun zealots in revenge, and she holds Andreja responsible. She thinks Andreja set both her and Aaron up. After convincing Jada that Andreja is innocent, this leads you to the final step of the quest, a meeting with Tomisar Kadic. This is Andreja's one and only contact with House Va'ruun. As she tells you, he's the only one who knows the coordinates to the Va'ruun homeworld. Without him, she won't be able to get back. That's how secretive the Va'ruun homeworld location is. They don't give it out to just anyone, they only give it out to a few select contacts. These contacts then pass on the location to their contacts in a long and secretive chain. However, Tomisar is not a good dude. He appears to be responsible for the ambush that has haunted Andreja and her friends for 10 years. So in the final step of the mission, both you and her confront Tomisar on a derelict space station. After talking, you can decide the fate of Tomisar with 3 options. You can let Andreja kill him personally, you can kill him yourself, or you can convince her to spare his life. By selecting the dialogue option, give your friends the vengeance they deserve, you encourage Andreja to assassinate Tomisar. This prompts Andreja to voice concern that the Great Serpent will never forgive her for this action, the Great Serpent of course being the god all Va'ruun believe in. By choosing the option, I'll do it so you don't have to, you can assassinate Tomisar yourself. You would think with this option that you keep Andreja's hands clean, although for all intents and purposes the same thing happens because Andreja loses her affiliation with House Va'ruun. Now the option you want to do if you want to see how this plays out in Shattered Space is the option he's not worth it. You would lose out on too much. With this, you persuade Andreja to let go of her thirst for revenge and get Tomisar in front of the Va'ruun High Council. This will get him to be judged for his crimes. Although you don't actually escort him anywhere because when you think about it, how would that even work? Only he knows how to get to the Va'ruun homeworld, and ultimately it's his word against Andreja's. But anyway, let's not try and work out the logistics of this third option. Let's just trust it all went to plan. The hope is that if you take Andreja with you into the Shattered Space DLC, she'll reference what happened in the companion quest and will have an interesting outcome. Now, if we are being realistic, there probably won't be a continuation of this arc with Tomisar, like we won't see him tried in front of a council, but at the very least, there might be a reference to it in the dialogue. And apart from that, I fully expect Andrea to have some special lines of dialogue, she says, when roaming around the Varun homeworld. Again, she's your only Varun companion, and this will be the first time she's ever returned home in decades. It's also a huge surprise she's even been able to get home at all, given that Tomasar was her only link to the homeworld, and now that relationship is severed. But also, the homeworld is not in a good way. There's a huge gravitational anomaly nearby that looks like it's destroying everything around it, and it would be massively weird if Andrea doesn't mention that in some way. Now, I think your other companions will have their own lines of dialogue for Shattered Space, don't get me wrong. It's just Andrea's perspective is, for me, the most interesting. But what if Andrea is no longer alive in your game? After all, with the 11th Starfield mission, High Price to Pay, you have to choose one of 4 key characters to die. These are Sam Coe, Sarah Morgan, Andrea, and Barrett. You determine who dies by choosing between the character with the highest relationship status to you and the character with the lowest relationship status to you. To save the lowest relationship character, pick the option in the mission to defend the lodge. To save the highest relationship character, pick the option to go to the eye. That's why you need to make sure you've got all your companion infinities exactly where you want them before starting this mission. But let's say you've already done this mission and Andrea is already dead. What then? Well, you can't turn back time, but you can enter New Game Plus and revive everyone. Completing the game and going through the Unity brings everyone who perished over the course of your playthrough back to life. Although it will reset relationships, so any companion quest you did previously, you'll have to do again. But doing Andrea's companion quest isn't the only way to prepare for Shattered Space. I also recommend going in with one specific character trait, and that is the Serpent's Embrace. Its description reads, you grew up worshipping the Great Serpent. Grav jumping provides a temporary boost to health and oxygen, but health and oxygen are lowered if you don't continue jumping regularly, like an addiction. In game terms, it gives you a temporary health and oxygen boost from a grav jumping, but health and oxygen decrease if jumping isn't continued regularly. In story terms, it's far more interesting because having the Serpent's Embrace basically makes you a believer in the Varun cause, and this is bound to be commented on by the Varun members you meet in Shattered Space. You're not an outsider invading their planet, but a member of the house finally returning home. So if you haven't got the Serpent's Embrace trait on your current character, don't worry because you can choose to apply it in New Game Plus. That's because Bethesda added the option to recreate your character after entering the Unity and choose all new traits. And finally, another companion it would be cool to play Shattered Space with is Jessamine Griffin. This is a smuggler who is hunted by Varun zealots, and she's spending her entire life at trying to outrun them. You can find her in the key in the Crick system, hanging out at the Nova bar. Her story goes that she once stole a few items from a Varun zealot ship, and now they won't stop attacking her. It makes me wonder what happens when you make her accompany you on a trip to the one place she really doesn't want to go, a planet full of Varun. Well, there's only one way to find out. Anyway, those are a few ways to get ready for Shattered Space. Number 1, do Andrea's companion quest, or 2, bring her back from the dead. Number 3, get the Serpent's Embrace trait, and number 4, recruit Jessamine Griffin. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, and for more Starfield videos, subscribe to the channel.
If the Varun zealots don't sound like a problem to you, then I can't wait to see what you're made of. Sure, fine by me. I'm looking forward to the adventure.